Could you use a quick tip daily? How about a tip that can impact your day? My name is Raphael. Join me as I bring you tips by experts around the world. These experts have shared their knowledge and wisdom with me and will directly share them with you. Make sure to subscribe, like, follow, and comment, and I would love for you to become part of the New Tip Daily community. Good morning, good morning. Happy Tuesday. Today we're talking about family values. Wow. Thank you so much for joining me today. Episode 71 on New Tip Daily. So, what are family values? It is different for every family. Let's put it that way. When we think about what your family values, right? Some families, the values are set up by the parents. And for example, like when you think about Sunday dinner, right? Everyone has to be at Sunday dinner. Or how about we need to be able to do certain things in the household. Who sets that up? Well, let's imagine, first of all, that you are a teenager. What family values do you follow as a teenager? And do you follow them all? Now, let's get into what if you're the parent of a teenager? How do you instill those values onto your children? What if you don't have any children and you're looking to get married, to start a family? And a family doesn't have to mean children. It could be you and your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your spouse. Once you come together, once you unite, then you can start to set up those values for your children if you decide to even have any. Let's speak for a second. What if you both decide that children is not what you want? You're still a family. Once you unite, once you're together, you should consider whether you're married to them or not. But if you're living together, you have to set certain family values, if you will. Trust should be a family value. Consideration for the other person should be a family value. Let's talk about communication. That too, in my opinion, is the biggest family values that we can set a precedent for. For example, do we ask each other how our day is going? And do we just blurt out whatever it is? Or do we come home and just go crazy with what's happened with us, yet it's only about us? So, what values are you setting for your household? Do you agree to communicate openly, to understand each other? So, how about listening? Can you set that up? A lot of people get into an argument because the other person either doesn't agree or understand the message. So when we think about politics, if you're both on the same side of politics, right? It doesn't matter what side you're on, but if you're both on the same side, the agreement is somewhat mutual. But if you're on one side and the other person's on the other side, you can still have a great relationship, but your beliefs might impact the way you communicate with one another. So, does it make sense for a Republican to date a Democrat and vice versa? How about somebody who's on the right date somebody who's on the left? So, family values has to start with your beliefs. What are you most, mm, what are you most, let me put it in a good way. What are you most enthusiastic about? What sets you on fire? What gets your heartbeat going? What sets your mood? Set up the family values to understand one another. What's important to you and what's important to them. You can listen, we don't pick our siblings. We don't pick our parents. Now, there are some people who believe we do. Some people who believe that before we're even born, we can choose our parents. I got to tell you, some people are not happy with their choice, right? Teenagers are probably not happy with their choice at sometimes. All of us have to realize that we need to make do with what we have, but let's make it better with what we have. If we didn't pick our parents, how can we treat our parents so we have a better relationship? If we didn't pick our siblings, how can we treat them so we have a better relationship? How can you treat anyone? You get the chance to pick your friends, who you associate with. When you go to a job, you don't get to choose the people you work with. Your bosses do. But what kind of a relationship can you have with the people you work with? So, relationships, communication, and choice come into family values. How do we choose to live our lives? That's truly family values. How do we choose to live with another person? And then finally, how do we set the standard for the family values, the ones we want our children to follow? Do you want to make it a routine where you all get together for dinner every single day of the week? Or do you make it a couple of times a week? Or do you make it once a week? So when we think about the connections, what happens at dinner? What conversations are allowed, should I say, at the dinner table? One thing that I don't like when I'm eating is to have conversations about things that make me nauseous. Like, I don't want to sit there and have somebody talking about something that's gross. For example, throwing up, um, an operation, things of that nature. But do I want to get into a heated conversation at dinner, or do I want to get more into a conversation about the person I'm with, about them, how I feel about them, how they feel about me, what's going on with their life? Not necessarily politics, unless they're in politics, then you should talk about that. But more about what affects them, what affects you. What is it about them that you like, dislike, that you find lacking that you find enjoyable. Set up your family values once you start that family. It's very difficult to try to impart new family values when people have been in the family for many years. For example, how do you start new family values with a teenager if you demand that they come home for dinner every day? Meanwhile, you never had that happen when they were 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years old. And then all of a sudden you demand it from them. They're not going to be happy because they're used to maybe sitting in front of the TV at dinner time. That's a family value that you can set up. Where do you eat your meals? Is it at the dinner table? Is it in front of the TV? Is it on the run? Do you make time for breakfast together? Do you make it an event where we all need to get up earlier so we can all maybe say a prayer together, maybe have breakfast together, maybe even meditate? Have you ever considered meditating with your family? Wow, that would be so cool. Because meditation, most people think it's a single event for one person. You know, there are meditation centers where people go and meditate together. Wouldn't it be beautiful if you started meditating with your partner? And maybe if you don't have kids, but when they start coming around, when they're very young, you guys sit in meditation. And I don't mean in a lotus position. And I've talked about meditation, how it can happen anywhere, but more about being in the moment, understanding what's going on, and maybe sitting quietly with one another, maybe even holding hands, right? And breathing, deep breathing, so that you have that energy flowing inside of you. Think about the values that you instill in your family. Which ones do they instill in you? Talk about. Maybe our family values need restructuring. Maybe you need an intervention for your family values. Talk to an expert. Talk to your clergy. Talk to a spiritual advisor. Talk to your coach. If you have the right coach, somebody who has the right values in their life, not somebody who tells you about values. Meanwhile, they have no values when it comes to their life. They don't respect their spouse. They don't respect their home. Having family values is being respectful about the house. Family values is, how do we take care of the home together? How do we clean the home? How do we make it inviting? How do we make it a specific place for us to be heard, be unique? Make it a no judgment zone where people can openly, and I mean openly, speak about anything and not be reprimanded or get in trouble for it. There's a lot of things that go into family values. Me personally, I think communication, understanding are the two main ones that help me with my family values. Make sure that you create something for you. And like all things, it needs to take time for it to be great. Work on family values. Thank you so much. Join me tomorrow as we share a health tip on how not to be distracted when you're working out. And I'm talking about at the gym, how to be focused. Thank you so much. Have an amazing, amazing rest of your day.